1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All are.
One of resistance.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Rebellion.
Rebellion is built on hope.
And redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Welcome, everybody. We are back. It is Star Wars Reactions, and we have missed you guys and girls and everybody. We've missed you. It has been crazy. We're happy to be back. We're excited. I am Aaron Harris, and joining me. Hey, he's the wrecker to my hunter, or the tech to my echo, or the echo to my hunter, or the. I could keep going. There's 4 of them. This could go on for days. David Motters, my co-host. David, my brother. What's up, my friend?
Well, like I said, at least you're up. You're up and ready to rock, ready to record, and I'm ready to react. Okay, I haven't said that in a while. As you said, buddy, missed talking to everybody, and just have been just hopeful that you and Shannon and the whole family would be okay. And so I'm just very thankful that we're recording. So this is a good night. This is a great night, actually.
It is. We are back. I tell you, it's been a long 2 weeks, and as you notice, we haven't released anything in a while for a couple weeks, and that was mainly because. And if you saw my post on our social media, I initially said I was initially diagnosed with an upper respiratory infection, and a few days after that, we found out that was misdiagnosed. And I actually had COVID, and my wife had COVID, and my 9-year-old had COVID, and we were all quarantined, and my wife and I were pretty sick. She actually was a lot sicker than I was, and it made for a very rough 2 weeks, and made it, one thing we've always said, you've heard us say it before, we love you guys. We have fun. We enjoy doing this, but our families always come first. And I had to step away, unfortunately, and get my family healthy. And we are, for the most part, we're all symptom free except for that lingering cough that comes afterwards. And we're healthy, and we're all happy, and we're up and around. We still tire a little easy, but it's good to be back. I'll say that. I know a lot of people have reached out online, and because I did post updates on my personal page, my personal Twitter and everything, and a lot of people reached out and sent their well wishes and prayers and thoughts and good vibes through the Force, and I got to tell you, and I want you to hear it from me verbatim, from my own lips, that I saw all the messages. I appreciate everything everybody said. It meant a lot to me. I know I didn't have time to respond via Twitter or Facebook or wherever y'all messaged me, or Instagram, but I did get the messages. I appreciated them. Y'all will never know how much that meant to me. That y'all were sending thoughts and wishes and prayers and everything for me and my family. It meant a lot, and I just want to say thank you. And we're one big family here, Star Wars family, and y'all stood up and helped let me feel that family connection, and I appreciate that.
Well, and like you said, buddy, we were getting ready to. We were prepped to record about the episode we're going to cover tonight, War-Mantle, and we just ended up, when everything hit, we just stopped everything. And like you said, and there's times where I've had family issues back in Michigan, and I've gone back and helped out up there, and you've held down the fort for me. And then when this was happening, we just said, let's, hold down the fort. I'll hold down the fort on my end, and just hoping and praying that all of you got better. And we were true to our word. Family is first. We always will, put a hold on Star Wars reactions and take care of our families. And like here, once we get them back and safe and sound, then we can come back to our passion here of Star Wars and podcasting and talking to all of our listeners. So I'm just thankful we're back at it. Most importantly, that you're better, buddy.
Exactly. And I appreciate it. I know you, like you said, we were sitting down to record this particular episode 2 weeks ago when I was just like, I can't. I didn't have the voice, didn't have the strength, didn't have anything that would allow me to do it. So I'm glad we're able to get things going again.
Oh, you're on mute, buddy.
Yeah, sorry, my wife walked in.
Oh, okay. Well, while Aaron's taking care of that, we interrupt this programming for this PSA. Make sure you stay safe and healthy from COVID.
Exactly. Sorry about that.
There's our PSA.
Our drama at our house continues as our hose busted and just completely drenched my wife. So, so with that said, let's get this party started. There has been news that's occurred over the last couple weeks while we've been out. I mean, by now, everybody has seen it. So I don't feel. I'm not going to go back and we're not going to cover the news from the last 2 weeks. The only thing I will mention before we go into the review is it was announced that the Bad Batch will be getting a season 2, which is awesome. I thought that was incredible. That is news that did catch me off guard. So I figured I'd throw that out there. It's exciting to see. I'm interested to see where they go with the show at this point. And it'll be fun. It'll be fun. So what did you think when they announced season 2, David?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that. I was surprised. Wow, I know. Well, I'm just gathering my thoughts here. I was surprised they didn't announce it earlier in the season, but then to announce it, I'd have to look back here. And was it between Return to Camino and Camino Lost? Well, those have already, obviously aired on Disney Plus and stuff like that. I thought about this. I actually wish that they would have announced season 2 when the credits rolled after Camino Lost, just like they did for Loki. No one knew if Loki was going to have a second season until the credits rolled after that 6th episode, and you saw this, boom, Loki will return for season 2. That would have helped me to enjoy the finale of season 1, and I would have felt much more tension, like not knowing, what was going to happen to our heroes. Once they announced season 2, I was like, well, I think the bulk of them will be back. So it kind of took some of the oomph out of it. So those are just, we can talk about that a little bit more when we cover, part 1 and part 2 of the season finale. But that was my initial response. Just wait till it's, credits roll for the very end. And it would have helped my experience. That's just me.
Oh, absolutely. I understand that. Yeah, I was excited, definitely was excited.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm glad there's a season 2. I just, I'm like, do it like, either not or do it. Like I said, I was watching the end of Loki and not knowing, and they just kind of did a boom, like kind of like a stamp, and went and announced season 2. And I was like, oh man, I wish they would have done that with Bad Batch. It would have kept the tension higher.
It would have, and it actually would have. I think it would have been a bigger break at that point. But it's good to see. Well, not judge. I don't know why they announced it when they did, but
yeah,
it is what it is, and it's very good to see. So,
yeah. Well, it decreased my anxiety, so maybe that's a good thing. But I am excited for season 2. I've absolutely enjoyed covering season 1, so I'm not complaining.
I don't blame you. It's been a blast. Season 1. Season 1 has been good and ends on a good note. So we're going to get going with our review for this week. Well, for this episode at least. We're actually going back and looking at War-Mantle. This was episode 13. No, 14. Excuse me.
14.
This was episode 14, War-Mantle. This actually was released July 30th, 2021. Written by Damani Johnson and directed by Stuart Lee. This episode began with Clone Force 99 on their shuttle returning from a mission for Sid when they get an emergency call from good old clone Captain Rex, asking them to help a fellow clone, another Reg. After debating the mission, they go to what they thought was an uninhabited planet called Darrow, only to discover that the Empire has a secret base built into the mountain, and the clone that they are there to rescue is being held inside. Hunter, Echo, and Tech infiltrate the base while Omega and Wrecker wait at the ship for backup. They make it to the trooper, who ends up being fan favorite Gregor, Clone Commando Gregor. And during the escape, they discover that the troops that they are fighting aren't actually clones, but humans conscripted into the service of the Empire, and they're being led by clone commandos. Gregor advises them that these are the clones' replacements, and that he, along with other commandos, were their trainers. Their escape goes wrong, terribly wrong, and while everyone escapes, thanks to Hunter, who unfortunately gets captured as they all fly off into the sunset. The episode ends with Hunter sitting in a cell and Crosshair entering in and finally coming face to face again. So let's go ahead and jump into our initial thoughts. And I'm going to start this one off because I've been itching to discuss this episode for 2 weeks now. Holy shnikes, guys. This was an incredible episode. This was an episode this is what I was wanting from the series. This type of action and excitement. This is what I was waiting for. The mission, the action, rescuing a Reg. This was great. Hunter and Crosshair coming face to face was incredible. The animation was the best. I mean, oh gosh, it was incredible. The landscape there on Darrow was picturesque. The Kiner's music, man, blew my mind in this episode. It was just everything about this episode I loved. David, what were your initial reactions to War-Mantle?
Oh, mine are almost a mirror image of yours, buddy. I was thinking about it. The last episode that you and I covered before everything hit the fan with sickness and stuff was Infested. And so if if our listeners happen to, listen to that one, hopefully they did, they'll know that this episode is what I wanted in that episode, in Infested, but it didn't happen. But this one has real suspense. It has the action, character development, and a movement forward in the overall story. Infested, as you and I reviewed, and like I said, if our listeners remember it, you and I were not really that impressed with it. Just kind of plopped in there and so on and so forth. But this one, I love the episode 4 vibes, with all the pill-shaped lighting inside of that base. I love how that base was built into the mountain. I just watched the episode again tonight, I think for the third, fourth time, before Aaron and I jumped on. I loved it. I love it. I just like, yeah, let me watch it again. And just really enjoyed seeing all the New Hope nods. Aaron mentioned Kiner's music, and they really do, instead of just doing little hints at music from A New Hope, they really put a lot of those music cues in there, and I love that. And getting to find out about Gregor here was really cool, and seeing him reappear. Aaron and I did a profile on him. I don't know how long ago. I'd have to take a look, but we've really enjoyed this character from the get-go. Another great thing about this episode, it leaves me wondering what happened to Lama Su. The doors closed with those troopers going in there. And then the cliffhangers right out of the Saturday morning serials. That's, George Lucas grew up watching, and there it was. As Aaron mentioned, there's, Crosshair and Hunter face to face, and I'm like, holy shnikes, like Aaron said. Well, what's happening next? And so just really, really enjoyed this episode.
It really was a great episode. I mean, it was definitely one for the record books. And I'm trying to remember when we did our Gregor profile. I'm looking through our notes real quick here, because there is episode 38 was our Gregor profile back in March. We did that. So it was great to see him to get more of the background. I almost feel like we need to go and update our profile of him at this point. Because this was a great episode to include him in. So let's go through and hit on our talking points here. Let's look at the beginning of the episode, like you said, during the synopsis. Hunter, they get the emergency call from Rex to go rescue this reg. And there's a discussion amongst the group of whether or not they should do it. Of course, Echo, who's worked with Rex for years, he's adamant that Rex wouldn't ask us for help if he didn't need it. And then, of course, the others are worried about. Tech is worried about if we don't finish this mission for Sid, we don't get paid. There's no food, and Hunter there's a lot of hesitation in Hunter about what to do. And it's not until Omega's, they're back and forth. Omega chips in, we're soldiers. We help people, right? That's what we do. That Hunter finally gets in, and it's like, all right, we'll go check it out. Why do you think Hunter had so much hesitation in taking this mission?
Well, you look at him, and as the leader, I keep noticing this in him, that it's one thing to have Clone Force 99 there, but when you have Omega there, what you and I have talked about as a young child, she's become more proficient, more of a part of the squad, part of the team as the episodes have gone on. However, he has to really be alert to that. And, we've talked about this in previous episodes. Can you run in and solve every problem that comes your way, every request, every bad thing that's happening in the universe? Can you go deal with it? And he's like not just thinking about himself, but he's thinking about his Clone Force 99 brothers and, of course, Omega. And so I think it's healthy to see the hesitancy. And he even mentions, just again, watching it tonight, he's like, we just don't have a lot of data. And right when they were starting to ask Rex questions, Rex had to bug out. He's like, wait, I got to go. Boom, just sends him coordinates and is gone. So, going in blind and again, I think he's hesitant, Aaron, because of all the other people he's thinking about. And in fact, I'll talk about this more in my psychology corner at the end of the episode. His hesitancy, does tie into what I want to discuss then. So again, everybody hold tight for that.
Excellent. So, and what's the nice comic relief in that particular segment too is Wrecker's just agreeing with everybody.
Right. I just love that.
Echo's like, he wouldn't ask for help if he didn't need it. And Wrecker's like, yeah, that's right. And then Tech's like, well, if we don't do this, we don't get paid, we don't eat. Oh yeah, Tech's got a point. What are we gonna do? He's just agreeing with everybody. He's like, he doesn't have an original thought in his head, other than charge in and blow it up. So I thought that was pretty funny. Next in the episode that I want to touch on is what's going on Kamino, because the very next scene we are on Kamino. We have Rampart there, and they are discussing the evacuation of personnel and stuff from Kamino. They're removing all the clones that are there, and it's a different situation than what we've seen throughout the Clone Wars and what we've seen earlier in the series. And it even comes to a head when the Prime Minister pulls Lama Su aside and has a discussion that, all of our contracts have been terminated. We have to, make some tough choices here if we're going to maintain our survival. And she basically says, you need to gather your essential personnel and bug out. One thing that was always a question of what happened to Kamino after the Clone Wars ended, and we get to see part of what's starting to happen in this episode. Without being influenced by of course by now we've seen all the last two episodes of the season, we know what happens, but putting that aside, with War-Mantle, when you watched this episode, what were your feelings seeing what was going on there on Kamino?
Oh yeah, it was great. In particular, what I was going to say is a little bit earlier, you mentioned that the Prime Minister brought Lama Su in to talk. It's actually, Lama Su is the Prime Minister, Nala Se is medical. And listen, I've heard a few other podcasts where they get that all kind of turned around. I wanted to mention that because at the very beginning of the season, I'm like, wait, who's Nala Se, Lama Su? Then there's Taun We, and and all that stuff. But I wanted to mention that yes, in particular, the reason why I wanted to clarify that is because, again, to piggyback off you, buddy, when you see Rampart talking to Crosshair out there, and you're seeing the ships take off, and they're going up to those Star Destroyers, it was kind of wild to see Lama Su, the Prime Minister, walking behind them. He's just kind of walking through, watching all this. And I'm like, man, he knows this is not good. And of course, he says as much to Nala Se that, even though she says, well, we should be fine. And he's like, no, this new empire is not the Republic. And we've empowered them to our detriment. And I thought that was well said on his part. But it starts that eerie process. It's got to be eerie for him and all of the Kaminoans to watch this happen. And oh man, it's a really good start to, again, what we see in the last two episodes. But like you said, I'll leave those for later.
Yeah, well, this episode even progresses even further with the story on Kamino, as toward the end, which at the end of the episode closes there. One of the final closing scenes is Rampart confronting Lama Su, saying, basically saying, we know your scientists tried to escape. We know we need her, so nothing's going to happen to them, but we don't need politicians. And then they walks out of the room, the door closes, and you're left with that distinct impression that the stormtroopers in there just executed Lama Su. And as I heard, and it's just a very dark time on Camino, and for a planet that's so the exterior of the planet, the water planet's always stormy. It's I don't think I've ever seen it tranquil seas or anything.
Right.
But it's always stormy and everything, but everything inside is so bright and so lit and so sterile. For such dark things to be occurring at that point is kind of different.
It's eerie. Yes, it is. That's why I think it's so cool to see Lama Su walking through that hangar right behind Rampart and Crosshair, and I'm just like, oh man, it's eerie, and the way that they animate Nala Se too, her eyes, and she looks worried, not sure what to do, and she knows it's coming to an end as well.
Yeah, definitely they do. Let's. So much to talk about. We're running out of time here, so we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk some more about War-Mantle. Don't go away. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here. We are discussing War-Mantle. And before the break, David, you mentioned something about how well that Nala Se was animated. The eyes were animated, the expressions and everything, how well it was done. That's just something we haven't done in any of our reviews for this episode. Let's take a minute and just talk about the spectacular animation in this series. It has been absolutely incredible to see what that animation team has done. And it really hit me in this episode too, as they're approaching the mountain complex, how incredible animated. Just even that opening scene where the troopers are chasing down Gregor, but we don't know it's Gregor yet. And it's dark in the woods, and you see the way the flashlights are cutting through the underbrush and stuff. It really, honestly, there were parts of this episode, most of this episode, felt like I was watching more of a movie, a cinematic movie, than a 25-minute animated kid show.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, it's actually kind of fortuitous. We're recording this on Monday, August 16th. Yesterday, August 15th, 2008, the Clone Wars movie came out at theaters, and I was there. And Eli, my son, was much younger, went with a bunch of dads. I've talked with you on this on the show before.
Yep.
But, the classic discussion after that movie was just how stiff a lot of the animation looked, Obi-Wan's beard, Count Dooku's beard, so on and so forth. And, you and I have, watched all these episodes now, and as you progress through the seasons, it's amazing, from that movie in 2008 till now, what they can do. And just like you said at the very beginning, looking at the tree limbs, looking at the lights cutting through. And I think, again, I know that you and I have definitely praised the creators over the years when we've reviewed, different shows. But I think it can be easy to take this for granted. But I started thinking about, how much time it takes to make this look good. And, Joel Aaron, who's the lighting specialist on all this, he's been on, Clone Wars and all that for a long time. He'll post on Twitter, hey, I'm so proud of our team and what we've done this episode, and I can't wait to show you the next episode. And they really did talk up, these last three, and they absolutely lived up to it. I'm with you, buddy. I'm just amazed at this animation. I really wish this was the level back, in 2000, August 15th, 2008. But again, things improve, and it's so amazing. So yes, the all the praise on the animation team and the lighting, and I feel spoiled. Like watching it tonight, I'm just watching it. I'm just like, it's just incredible. Just even watching Hunter fall down through the trees at the end, land on that rock, and like my whole body hurts watching him fall. But it's just even how they light the visors on the clone commandos is just brilliant. So yes, nothing but praise for me, and it's well deserved. I'm not. This is not over the top. Oh, I'm just praising. No, it's incredible.
Oh, it is stunningly incredible, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. And everything you said was well done. I mean, there's just something about this series that has just been, when it comes to the way the crew has been working on this, it's just been incredible to see how they've done it. The lighting, the shading, the just the background animation is so detailed. I mean, if you go back to, I know you mentioned the '08, the Clone Wars movie. You go back to that movie and compare that animation to this animation, and it's completely different worlds. And just how much technology is advanced says something, but at the same point, it's just how much more skilled they are at what they do, and how much more detail they can put into an episode. Just little simple things. And it's just, oh my gosh, it's just incredible. I've loved the animation in this series.
I'll give you a quick one. Just watching it tonight, when they go up the side of that mountain and just before Hunter sends Wrecker and Omega back to the ship, he kneels down, and I was looking at his hand, and he picks up some dirt, and you watch it fall and to the ground, kind of like with Omega in that second episode. But I was just watching it, it just, again, when you watch something the third or fourth time, I'm like, well, let me just look at different areas, different places. And I'm like, that's incredible. And now again, someone might say, wow, you're praising that. I'm like, it just wasn't happening in 2008 with the animation. Again, I enjoyed it. I mean, they pushed 3 episodes together. We all know this, the 2008 movie. Again, just, you got to start someplace. And, I liked it. I loved it. I loved watching Anakin and Dooku fight with lightsabers, and Ahsoka and Jabba and Stinky, and we got introduced to Ahsoka. I didn't know what to make of her. And of course, we all love her now. And of course, we've all talked about Ashley Eckstein and everything. So, yeah, you got to start somewhere. But again, instead of staying stagnant, they've improved it every year, every season of the Clone Wars, and so I really, really enjoy it. And so yeah, I'm glad we took some time to just kind of really give them a big shout out.
Well, they definitely deserve it, and I'm very interested to see when award season comes around, if they do. They deserve it. They deserve not as many nominations as they can get. Yeah. So here's hoping next year when award season comes around that they are given their due. And one thing I want to mention, and we want to talk about that's in our show notes too, that ties into the animation, are these new stormtroopers, which we know now aren't clone troopers, are actually stormtroopers. They're the conscripted soldiers. Their armor is, and I love how they did it. It's literally the Macquarie design from the concept art for the stormtrooper, and see that brought to life as like Generation 1 Stormtrooper armor is incredible to see.
Well, I love that. I love that you said that, Generation 1, because, I remember seeing the original artwork, and when I saw this episode, I'm like, wait a minute, that's Ralph McQuarrie. And what's interesting too, Aaron, piggybacking off what you said, is that when we fast forward to episode 4, we see it has evolved to that. And I like that because, again, across the Clone Wars, we saw their clone trooper armor morph. And here we can see it go from, again, original Ralph McQuarrie Stormtrooper armor, and it's the original Stormtrooper armor here. And again, we see it morph, and we actually see that Stormtrooper armor in, in Rebels and in even in Resistance, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So no, I'll go. Wait, Resistance is more first.
No,
so
it's First Order.
So that's my bad. So no, we see it in Rebels. We see Ezra and all them battling. The Stormtroopers with the armor that we've known from the original movie. So I thought that was really cool. Nice touch.
It really was. I thought it was awesome. And it was a nice call out, a nice nod there. Let's talk about everything that's going on this base. We know basically from their infiltration of the base, we know that there's 1,000 troopers there, and they're not, CTs, they're clone troopers. They're TKs. Yeah. And apparently 421 was not at his post.
TK 421.
Yeah, exactly. So does that mean, squirrel.
Carabas.
So if these are the first 1,000 conscripted soldiers, shouldn't 421 be there?
Well, it could be, unless, again, there's multiple bases we don't know about, just like Tech mentioned it. And there's clone commandos there training those TK soldiers on different planets who've been recruited. So
but you're not going to have 500 421s all TKs. I mean, you got them numbered like you're going to have them numbered, and if you're going, it's just something that just hit me completely random. You got the first 1,000 TKs there, and what numbers within the first 1,000 is 421. Does that mean that TK 421 in A New Hope was like in his late 40s, early 50s?
Well, I think in our headcanon we can say this is the first 1,000, although this could be 1,001 up to 2,000. But I will go with what you said. This could be our headcanon that TK421 is there on Dara.
Well, I mean, this is Star Wars too. We don't know how to count in Star Wars. We started with 4, 5, and 6, did 1, 2, and 3, and then 7, 8, and 9. So, I mean, this could be TK 9,000 through TK 10,000. Who knows? But that was just a little random thought that just squirreled its way into my head.
I like that.
So there you go. A little bit of random chatter there. All right. So War-Mantle's on the way. They got the first 1,000 TK troopers there. And what's great is we find out that these are the conscripted soldiers that are going to be replacing the clone troopers. Which is, quite a big deal. And it's one of those things that makes you wonder something you've always wondered about, how the transition went. And we're seeing it here. And this is something we saw at the beginning of the season too, when Tarkin and Rampart were discussing what to do with the clones right there at the beginning. And Crosshair gets his quote unquote experimental unit of conscripted soldiers. So War-Mantle is something that has just been building under and behind the scenes of this episode of this series, and it's just, oh my gosh, it's been incredible to see it take place. It really feels, now you said it earlier, it really felt, especially in that base with the pill lights and everything, it felt like they were running more through the Death Star than they were a mountain base.
Oh, agreed. Oh, yeah. Even when they had Gregor jogging with Clone Force 99, and they had the music that I can just see Han, Luke, and Leia, running through the Death Star. It seemed like it was this, same or similar music, and that was awesome. You'd laid out this idea of, they were going to, and we like you said from the beginning of the season, we knew that they were most likely going to show this whole process going from clones to conscripted. And, a big part of that, I think back to the episodes that you and I really loved were on Ryloth, because we love Rebels, we love Hera, we love Chopper and all that. And Hauser, I really think about him being a big part, of Rampart going back and talking to Tarkin saying, hey, we're just seeing some independent thought in these guys that we don't really want. Let's get some conscripted soldiers and, brainwash them and bring them in. But we're just seeing, too much of these soldiers, clones, doing stuff that we don't want. And so, and then, with Clone Force 99, and even in this episode, again, watching it, you see Rampart say to Lama Su, the prime minister, he said, not that I was impressed with your clone troopers from the beginning. He's never really been hip on them. And then, of course, we can see that throughout the rest of this season, throughout the whole season, there's many reasons to back up his dislike of the clones and want to move on. So it was laid out pretty well.
It really was. It really was. It was. I tell you, it was a great episode. Yeah. Sorry, my mind's in a couple different places right now. I'm trying to decide where I want to go.
Hey, it's our first one back in several weeks, so.
Yes, and I'm still trying to get my brain in working order here. Sorry about that. Carabast. Maybe I should have done what Wrecker suggested. Maybe I should have charged up before I charged in.
Yeah. Well, I put that in the show notes, and as one of the talking points. Again, the humor that you'd mentioned, with Wrecker agreeing with everybody there at the beginning of the episode, and then in this one, or forgive me, a little bit later on, when Omega is struggling to relax, she's like, I can't believe it. He goes, I'm just resting up. I'm charging up before I charge in. And I love that. And I had to put that in our show notes just to just have a fun little thing. I also, again, liked when they were getting ready to take off in the Marauder and Omega was flying and Wrecker's there and he's like, yeah, let's go, man. He's pumped up and in a good mood because, like you said, he wants to go in and blow things up. So you got to have Wrecker. So he brought some really good comic relief for a pretty serious episode, I didn't know if you wanted to hit on something that I've heard a number of other podcasts talk about. Did you want to touch on the stun blast and the usage of that or not necessarily?
Well, we can. I mean, but it's not something it is something we've addressed earlier in the show, because that's all we saw Clone Force 99 use was stun. They wouldn't kill the clones. They would only stun them. Yeah. I mean, we can bring it up. Go ahead.
Well, I noticed something, and just a small thing, and then we can move on. But I noticed it only, last time and this time watching the episode, like I said, for the third or fourth time, when Omega and Wrecker bring the Marauder up to the side of the mountain, and Omega's got control of the ship, Wrecker opens that side door, and he just starts shooting. He's not using stun.
No.
But Tech, I'm trying to visualize Tech, Hunter, and let's see who else. It would be Tech, Hunter, and Echo are all using stun. Yeah, I just had to make sure I got the players right. Yeah, they're there getting ready to jump over. They're using stun. But Wrecker's got that thing on fully automatic, and I just noticed that he was looked like shooting to kill. So that was just a little, just something I noticed as a difference between like the episode Common Ground when they went to Raxus. You and I had talked about all of them. It felt like had stun on there, but here he had a full automatic on. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but anyways, just a little bit of a difference in this one.
Yeah, it is that is a little different, and it brings you to then the question you get you scratching your head is why would he have done that? But it could be just I could come up with any number of theories as to why, but yeah, it was a good catch. I honestly, I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't catch it at the beginning when I first watched it. And then once I saw a couple people say something about it online, I went back and watched. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see that. I see that now. It could be, in the heat of the moment. Oops, forgot to flip the switch.
Sure.
Who knows?
And he is shooting through. I mean, the clone commander had gotten shot by his own guys, and he went over the edge of the cliff. And when Wrecker's shooting, it looks to me like he's shooting back primarily at conscripted soldiers.
Yes.
So there is that. So I'll give him that. But anyway, we can move on from that. I just thought I'd throw that in, and probably our listeners are like, "Yeah, Dave, move on, boring. Come on, man."
All good. So let's talk about the one thing we have not talked about in this episode, and that is the return of CC 55778. Excuse me, the clone Captain Gregor.
Yeah.
This was, I'll be honest, this was a surprise for me. When they said they were rescuing a reg, and we see the guy running. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, because everybody kept saying Cody was in this series. Cody's in the series. We're going to see Commander Cody. So I'm like, okay, well, this has to be Cody then, because we're getting close to the end. Never in a million years did I see or imagine it was going to be Gregor.
Yeah, because when he's running at the beginning, we don't know. In fact, I didn't look it up in Jason Fry's book, the Clone Wars episode guide, because at the beginning you hear Tech say, "Well, it's on the Rex sent us information on CC boom boom the number." And then he said, on the planet Darrow. I don't know all the CC numbers or TKs all that well. I mean, I know fives, right? I love fives. But if I looked it up, it'd be like, oh my gosh, it's Gregor before they even announce it. What I did notice in the episode is he does a little bit of that classic laugh, not a lot of it, when they come and say, "Are you CC whatever?" And he says, "Well, since it's Rex, you can call me Gregor." And I thought that was neat how they did that. But it was a neat reveal. And, of course, now I want to maybe season 2, we'll see him rescue Wolf.
Yeah, you never know. I thought it was a great reveal. I mean, when they announced, when Tech was talking about his, it looks like it's got an emergency message from CC 5579. And I was sitting there going, I feel like I should know who that is because they're flat out saying the number. I feel I should know who that is. So I'm not ashamed to admit I Googled it immediately. And when it popped up as Gregor, I lost my mind. I was super excited. And what I really enjoyed about this rendition of Gregor, is it was a nice in between of Gregor, of what we saw in Clone Wars, the Commando Ultra killing machine Commando we see in Rebels, versus Crazy Gregor in Rebels. It was a nice little twist of that. We see him running through the halls. We see him blasting. He's got his strategy. He is all on top of it. But yet at a couple of times he has that crazy giggle, that crazy laugh that he has in Rebels. And I love the fact that they incorporated that. And it was just a nice twist between the two. And it's like this was the missing link between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. And all, we credited the animators and all the persons doing lighting. Well, D. Bradley Baker's voice work in this it's unreal. So
Emmy, give the man an Emmy. He has carried this show. D. Bradley Baker deserves an Emmy, absolutely. And one of my favorite scenes with Gregor in this episode, it's when he's in his cell and the conscripted soldier walks by and he asks for, I forget what Gregor asked for, water or food or something. And the conscripted soldier looks at him and goes, "Be quiet, traitor," and turns and walks away. And Gregor's like, "Oh, that's Captain Traitor to you." I'm like, he's got that same sense of humor really that he does in Rebels. It was great to see that. So I was happy with Gregor. I was very happy with Gregor. The last thing that we have in our list is that final scene of the episode. And this is something that I have been anticipating for a while. I have wanted to see this, and this would literally just, the way this ended just wet my whistle for more. It literally is Hunter sitting in that cell and Crosshair shows up, takes off his helmet and just looks at Hunter and is like, "I was hoping for the whole squad, but I guess you'll do."
Exactly.
I mean, it was Hunter, before he even says that, Hunter is like, "I was wondering when you would show up." He expected Crosshair to come, and Crosshair's like, "Yeah, you know what, you'll do." Man, it was just so the tension in that 10-second scene was so thick you could cut it with a knife. It was incredible.
Well, this is where I go back to what I mentioned in my initial thoughts, which was, when you'd mentioned that there's a second season. At this point, we don't know that, and it wasn't announced yet.
No, it wasn't.
Right, and so I have legitimate concern about Hunter. I'm like really nervous because I'm like, does this end with one season and something bad happens to Hunter and he's never reunited with Clone Force 99 or with Omega? Oh my gosh, God forbid. And this is where I tweeted out to Coffee with Kenobi and of course Dan Z that I listened to their coverage of this episode, and it was interesting because Dan, was mentioning when he was talking to Tom Gross and the guests that he's like, I'm not that worried about Hunter. And I'm like, okay, good. You just helped me feel better. You talked me off the ledge. And this is me, telling Dan that he's, Dr. Zare, he's a good psychologist. So I definitely did feel better. For some reason, Dan just was not nervous there. I was very nervous. Like you said, Aaron, the tension. I was like, oh my gosh, looking at these two, and of course, I think he's got the chip in there and everything. And so, yes, completely agree. Tension. I'm nervous. It leaves it with the Saturday morning serial cliffhanger. I loved it.
I did too. It was incredible. Cliffhanger, incredible way to end the episode. One thing I mean, the last thing I want to say before we close up our talking points, and this isn't in there. It's just something I was kind of thinking about on the rewatch with that ending with Hunter getting captured. He falls, he's surrounded by the clones, by the conscripted troops closing in to take him in captive. And we have everybody else in the shuttle flying around, and they're like, no, we're going to come for you. We're going to come get you. And Omega's adamant, we're coming for you. We're going to rescue you. We can't leave without him. And Hunter's like, leave. That's an order. And finally they leave. Is it me, or did that mirror the ending of the episode where Kanan got captured in Rebels?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, you're feeling some echoes?
I'm feeling a very similar story, very similar feeling. He, because Ezra wanted to go back and rescue him, and Hunter and Kanan's telling him no. The Inquisitor's there. Tarkin shows up. They got more troops coming in, and the Phantom ends up flying away.
Yes, that is true.
They're the first season. I'm trying to remember the name of the episode.
I know, with Tarkin. I know, Steven Stanton.
Call to Action.
Nice.
Call to Action.
Nice callback, buddy.
You're outside the communication tower.
Yes. Yeah. No, I just needed a few little clues, hints, and I'm visualizing it right now. Yes. Yeah.
I like that. I thought it was a nice nod, a nice little drawback to it. So yeah. So there it is. That's me. So that's where my mind was. It started to drift too. So, all right. Any other talking points that we haven't hit on that you want to talk about, my friend?
No, I feel good.
Excellent. So with that, we're going to go straight into our final thoughts and our grades. As you know, when we grade an episode, we grade it like you would get a grade in school: A, B, C, D, or F. And David, why don't you go ahead and kick off your final thoughts and your grade?
Well, anybody listening is not going to be surprised to hear this, but I have so many positive adjectives to describe this episode. And I do believe that I'm 100% convinced that last week's episode, the last one we covered was Infested, that was purposely placed there to bring about a significant contrast effect between it and, quite honestly, not only this, but the last two episodes of the season. So the final three episodes. In essence, Infested makes this episode look even better, more exciting. It reminded me a bit of when I was watching X-Files back in the day. The alien oil in the eyes, government cover-up episodes, those are my favorite. I just absolutely love Cigarette Smoking Man. Give me more of that. And the other one-offs were good, but not as good, in my opinion, as the conspiracy episodes. And this episode was definitely, for me, more the conspiracy, the ones I loved in X-Files. So I love this episode. I definitely think it's the first of a 3-part finale. And we'll talk about that and cover that more when we cover the last 2 episodes. But for me, I'll say this, with the last 2 episodes already over and seeing them, I will say this is my favorite of the 3. And like I said, I'll explain more of that later, but I give this my first A+ of the season. And by the way, my only A+ of the season, I believe. Yes.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yep.
So good job. I mean, I agree with everything you said. I absolutely loved this episode. Everything in this episode was, I mean, it was lit. It was on fire. The animation, lighting, soundtrack, D. Bradley Baker, everything about this episode was on fire. To me, this was as close to perfection as this series can get. It was perfect. And this is me saying that knowing what the last two episodes are. And even before seeing those two episodes, this is what I thought. And after seeing them, this is what I think still. This is about as perfect as you can get for an episode of how I always envisioned the Bad Batch to be. And, you know, it was a great cliffhanger to carry you into the final episodes. The nods to A New Hope, the nod to Rebels. I mean, everything was just perfect for me. And I'm going with you, David. I mean, this was an easy A+ for me. I know if this is the highest rated episode I've given, this definitely was an A+ for me.
Yeah. I'm with you. Like, yeah, it's close to perfection. It has everything. It really does. So just love this episode. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, of course, with that, we want to know what you thought of War-Mantle. You can always hit us up on any of our social media, Facebook and Instagram or SW Reactions, or of course Twitter, SW Reactions Pod. Or you can email us show@starwarsreactions.com. Let us know what you thought of the episode. Give us your grade. And, of course, you may end up hearing your thoughts shared on the next episode. So let us know. David, I believe it's time for your all-new Psychology Corner.
It is, my friend. Over the last several weeks, I was just really kind of considering which route to go in terms of finishing up the last two act pivots. In previous episodes, our listeners have heard me cover ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, the pivots 1 through 4. And so I was trying to decide kind of what to do here. But just with everything going on with Aaron and his family and all of that comes first, I've kind of morphed it a little bit. And what I thought I would do is cover ACT Pivot 5, okay, and do that in this episode. And then in a future episode, cover Pivot 6. I do believe so far, the way that Aaron and I are planning this out, that I won't do a psychology corner for the our coverage of the season finale. But we've got, hopefully, fingers crossed, some special stuff coming up in that one. So, I will definitely make sure that our listeners get all 6 pivots. But let's do ACT Pivot 5. And again, it's called Values. This pivot's goal, as with all the previous pivots that I've covered with our listeners, is, again, to help us go from psychological rigidity to flexibility. In this case, it helps us to go from what's basically a compliant, culturally pressured approach to how we approach life, what we pursue in life, and what we tend to avoid and potentially miss out on. That's psychological inflexibility. And it tries to get us over to a values-based approach to life that sees us pursue the life we want, to approach possibilities, right, not avoid, and not miss out on things in life, okay? That's psychological flexibility. And so let me say a little bit more about values. Values are not goals. A lot of us set goals, and I'll talk more about that in Pivot 6, all right, which is called Committed Action. I'll do that when I cover that, not too far from now. But values, they're different. Dr. Hayes, in his book, and I've mentioned the book several times, it's called The Liberated Mind. It's his 45th book, and it's really his life work's culmination on ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. He does say that values provide an essentially inexhaustible supply of motivation in life. Goals end, values do not end. Okay. And so, how do we find out what we value? All right. And what I did, and I made sure to go to check this, is our listeners can do this via what's called the Valued Living Questionnaire. Now, I've given this to many of my clients, particularly after they have a husband or wife die, or if they have a son or a daughter die, and they're really questioning, what do I do the rest of my life? And I'm like, well, let's take a look at what do you value, and let's pursue that. And so, what our listeners can do, and it's very simple. If you go to www.stephenhayes.com, and the way he spells Stephen is with a V, not the PH. Okay, so www.stephenhayes.com, and I go there quite a bit. You can easily print off a copy of the Valued Living Questionnaire. Now, I wanted to go a step further to make sure, like I go there and I just kind of do it mindlessly because I've been to the website and I bounce around and I print stuff off. But just to do two more steps to help, what do I have, 2 or 3 here? I want to make sure our listeners really are able to find this versus getting lost. But go to www.stephenhayes.com, and what you do is you click on a tab and it says Inside. All right. Once you click on that tab, you then click on a tab that is labeled Resources. Okay. And then the last thing you click on is My Flexibility Scores. And that's where you'll find the Valued Living Questionnaire, along with other questionnaires that he gives. Again, you can look at any of them, print off any of the ones you want. It's all free. Okay. Now, to focus on the Valued Living Questionnaire, what it looks at is 12 areas that each of us may value. Aaron, me, you who are listening. The first part of the questionnaire asks us to rate the areas we value in life. And some of those areas are family, some are marriage, some of the areas are work, are educational pursuits, some it mentions community life, another one mentions social or friends, that aspect of life. One of them is spirituality, if you're someone who has a faith background. Another one mentioned in the 12 is a pursuit of the arts or aesthetics. So there's a lot of options there. Now, I don't think it's an exhaustive list, but again, our listeners can take a look. And the first part is to rate from 0 to 10, what do you value? And again, we're not all going to rate each area at the highest level. That's normal. Okay, so you go through, you rate the 12. Now, the second part of the VLQ lists those 12 areas again. But here it asks us to rate how our actual behaviors match up or not with each of the areas we value. Okay. Now, listen, just because we value an area, it doesn't mean our behaviors are consistent with it. Okay. So I might say, here's a value area I didn't mention when I was reeling some off. Health, exercise, diet, right? I might value that very high, up at an 8, 9, 10. But when I go to rate my actual behaviors, I might rate, a 2, 3, or 4, meaning my behaviors are not matching up with something I value. But that clues me in that, wait a minute, yes, I value this. I need to get my behaviors to match. Okay, so I just want to give a quick example there. Now, something that I've liked to do, like when Aaron and I were covering The Mandalorian, is to tie these psychological issues into the episode. And this one actually does tie in, because I thought about this pivot of values when I watched Hunter in this episode. And I had mentioned back when Aaron asked the question about Hunter's hesitancy to go on this mission to recover this reg, which turned out to be Gregor, what's going on there? And one of the things I think about Hunter is if he filled out the VLQ, the Valued Living Questionnaire, is he would value family, right? And their safety, right? Thus his hesitancy to put the whole Bad Batch in danger, his compatriots there and Omega. So now he does listen to Tech on the ship, and it's interesting, not only there, and he does listen to Tech while looking at the huge, daunting base right here in the mountain. And he does go ahead with the mission, because I also think he not only values family, but another value that people will see in the Valued Living Questionnaire, but it's community, right? That's something that people can value or not, but you can tell he does. Another thing that Hunter values is freedom, and I think he really zeroes in on that when he hears Echo talk about that and how they came to get him. So in this case, Hunter, wants that sense of community and freedom for Gregor. Now it's interesting. He does end up in prison, and he ends up exactly where Hunter wanted to avoid for himself and his whole crew. But that's how these things happen sometimes. The things that you value can put you in really bad places. Military men and women, police officers and stuff value our communities and our safety, but it can end up in a bad way. But I wanted to tie that into the pivot that I've covered tonight. But again, everyone hold tight for pivot 6. We'll cover it, and I'm looking forward to covering that with our listeners. So that was quite a bit, but Aaron has something on a much lighter note for our listeners.
Absolutely. We get wrapping things up. That, by the way, that was a great psychology corner. I absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for that. We got going to close everything out for this episode. Of course, we have started a new segment on the show, which I mentioned the last episode we did, is the Star Wars Dad Joke of the Week. And we got one for you this week, y'all. I hope you like it.
Groaner of the week.
Groaner of the week, as David likes to call it. Hey, David, what's the internal temperature of a tauntaun?
Last episode I didn't know, but I do know the answer to this one. What's the internal temperature of a tauntaun? Lukewarm.
Wah, wah. That's right. Lukewarm. Huh. All right. All right. So that wraps everything up. We're going to get out of here. Remember, if you want to let us know what you think of War-Mantle, or if you have any comments about the Psychology Corner, or want to just chastise me for the lame dad joke of the week, definitely feel free to hit us up. Star Wars reactions all over our social media. SW Reactions on Instagram and Facebook. SW Reactions Pod on Twitter. Show at Star Wars Reactions via email. Well, of course, David, if they want to reach out to you and discuss the Psychology Corner or just Star Wars in general, how would somebody go about doing that?
Absolutely. Twitter is David_Modders, Modders. Our email at our Star Wars Reactions is david@starwarsreactions.com. And Instagram is just search David Modders. I haven't put it on there. I've been wanting to, but kind of on everything, with, Aaron and his whole family being sick, I just was not feeling it. You just kind of are like, okay, yeah, I'm feeling better that Aaron and his family's doing better. So I'll try to start posting some more. So please forgive me for not doing as much, but, I will say this, Aaron, I do feel like we're losing listeners every time we do the joke. I can just hear them clicking off, click, 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 click. Oh my gosh. But anyways,
that's why we save it to the end of the episode.
That's right.
No, it's all good. No, we love it. If you want to talk Star Wars with me, the best way to do that is Twitter, TA Harris 121079 on the Twitter, or you can email me, Aaron at starwarsreactions.com. David, my friend, I tell you, it's been good to be back behind the microphone with you again, my brother.
Oh, just so glad you're back. Really missed recording with you, and we'll just let the listeners know we'll be caught back up, and we're gonna have a lot of fun with them.
Absolutely. We're going to be back. We got a lot planned, and it's going to be great. We want to thank each and every one of you for hanging with us and listening. Y'all are awesome. Y'all are great. Again, thank you to each of you who reached out to me while we were sick. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. David and I appreciate each of you more than you ever know. We appreciate you. We pray for y'all. Wish y'all the best. Stay healthy during this time. We definitely want you to stay healthy and safe, and pray that for you. So remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@StarWarsReactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.StarWarsReactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.